The 2023 Valencia Half Marathon was one of the greatest half marathons of all time. In this race, we had 4 individual athletes breaking the 58-minute barrier, which is a certain time barrier that only a handful of people have ever achieved. And beyond this race just producing multiple fast times, it was also an amazing race, as Kibiwott Kandi pulled off an amazing final 400 meters to take down Yomif Kejelcha and Agos Gebrhiwet, and finishing close in fourth was Selimon Barega, the Olympic 10,000 meter champion from Tokyo, also breaking 58 minutes. If you're familiar with distance running at all, you will know that this is one of the greatest road races to ever occur. But something very interesting went down just before this race went off that leaves me completely puzzled. If you'll take a look at the starting line, you might not notice right away that something was going on here, because it was just the beginning of the race and athletes were about to start this half marathon. But upon a closer look, you can see that not just Yomif Kejelcha, but Kibiwott Kandi and all of the top 4 finishers aren't even at the front of the race here. In fact, Kandi is about 2 or 3 rows back from the front of this lineup. Now, you might not realize it, but this is actually a huge issue. The race directors at this race must have known that Kandi is the second fastest half marathoner of all time, and he is only 1 second away from the world record. And you think if someone was going for a world record, or even getting close to a world record attempt, they would find their way to the front to save them at least a few valuable seconds, and this would also give them the ability to start the race without the potential of tripping. However, not for this race. You can see that Kandi and Kejelcha are way back from the front here. I just don't understand how this happens. If you're familiar with racing, you'll know that sometimes it can be a little competitive to get to the front, as many athletes are trying to get the best finish that they can, and being at the front so nobody else is in front of you is a great way to make that happen. But it should not happen to runners of this caliber. In front of these runners are athletes that probably finished minutes, if not even 10 minutes behind them. You've got a few athletes from Europe that did run very well up in the front here, but I honestly feel like this should never happen, and this is the race director's issue. This is not the athlete's issue, and it's also not the fault of the athletes up front. If nobody is telling them that they can't be there, why wouldn't they want to be there? I think that this is just a classic example of why you need a small gap between the elite athletes running up front and the following athletes. There have been a lot of big-time races that have literal ropes or even gates separating the running waves up front, and clearly, the Valencia Marathon needs this because there is no excuse for runners who objectively ran one of the top-rated road races of all time to not have that advantage of being up front. I just found this whole situation quite bizarre, and I'm curious if you guys have ever experienced anything like this. I'm sure as runners, we all know what it feels like to try and get to the front. However, when there are athletes that are objectively trying to go after a world record, or at least one of the top 10 times in history, typically people just know about that and they let them up front knowing that they're fast. I just found this whole issue very troubling, and that's about it. See ya.